Today we're talking about red dots on handguns, and the firearms featured is a Springfield Hellcat OSP with a Shield SMSC micro red dot on there. And over here we've got a Springfield Armory XDS OSP, and there we have a CTS 1500 made by Crimson Trace. But I have to admit, for years I avoided red dots on handguns. I always considered it amateur night. I was raised shooting with 3-dot sights, and I felt I was doing just fine, but my aging eyes caught up with me, and I learned that the availability to use a red dot certainly helps with accuracy, especially a perfectly sighted in red dot. And to top it off, I tried my friends and I kind of fell in love with it. So we're going to talk about some of the advantages that a red dot on a handgun offers. The first advantage is that the shooter can focus in on one dot opposed to aligning the rear and the front sight, and it makes shooting easier that way. You put that red dot on target, and so long as the shooter does their job, it should create accurate shooting, making it easier shooting. Now, most red dots are auto dimming. They're brighter in the daylight, a little more dim at night, but it picks up really easy, much brighter than night sights. And that will allow confidence when pulling the trigger, whether it's at the range or even competitors are using red dots quite often now. It just makes shooting a lot easier to accomplish. When shooting rifles, we learn to trust the dot because we're the ones who sighted it in, and it's no different with handguns. We have to trust the dot. Now, conventionally, we align the sights. We've done that for years, but now we have to trust the dot, and that takes some practice. Sometimes the dot may be off to the side over here because of the angle of the handgun, or maybe over on the other side. You put that dot on target, and you should be fine. You have a big glass here to look opposed to the smaller iron sights, and you put that dot on target, you trust that dot, and you pull the trigger, you should be just fine. Much like rifle shooting, except for this takes a little more practice to break that habit with the 3-dot system. Using a red dot on a pistol in low light conditions is ideal. The red dot is much brighter, even when it's dimmed down at night, than a night sight. So acquiring the dot and then acquiring the target is quick and it's easy. And so we learn to trust the dot no matter where it's at, and then we acquire the target, and especially in low light conditions. And I like it that it's auto dimming because, you know, you don't want a bright dot at you. You want that crisp, clear dot so that when you pull that trigger, you know that you're going to have an accurate shot. Stationary shooting is simple compared to moving, which is much more challenging. And we're getting back to target acquisition, red dot to target acquisition. And when moving, it is so much easier. You're looking at, once again, this large glass window. You're finding the dot and you're pulling the trigger. When moving, the gun sometimes shakes all over the place, and you need every advantage that you can get, and allowing yourself that dot to work with is so much easier, and most shooters find more success with a red dot on their handgun when moving. Both of these handguns are set up in a fashion that in case something happens with the red dot, the iron sights are still available, and that is key. So if something happens where your dot is not functioning or you're not feeling the confidence, the iron sights will still work. See how well that aligns? You can see right through that glass. Same thing with the XDS OSP. You can see right through that glass. So it's wise to plan for mechanical failures. A red dot is battery operated. If the dot dies out for any reason, your iron sights are still available, and that is key. We learn to do that with rifles all the time. Not all handguns allow this type of setup, but these two Springfield Armory handguns do, and I find that to be a big advantage. I opened up this video speaking about my aging eyes and how the older I get, they are failing me. And I spoke with many other shooters who made the transition from iron sights to red dots, and they mentioned it's just so much easier, and I am now joining that camp. Since I've had good experience with these, I have learned that You know, when that front dot is all fuzzy because the eyes just don't work like they used to, a red dot makes life easier. And once again, it boils down to confidence. How confident are you shooting when you have vision issues? It gets tough the older you get, or anybody who has vision issues. The use of a red dot certainly helps, and it kind of feels like cheating in a way, but you know, when you're shooting and you want to be accurate, I'll take every advantage I can get. Those are my thoughts for using red dots on handguns. Both of these pistols are great shooters. Coupled with the dot, I find shooting very enjoyable. I love the accuracy and reliability of these handguns, and I certainly appreciate the dots and the advantages that they offer.